at LibertyCon. This is the Welcome the Newbies panel part 2. I am your host and moderator, William Joseph Roberts, and we'll go around the group here and you can get to know these guys a little bit better. So we'll start off with John Drake up in the top left corner.
Hello. I'm John Drake from Dublin in Ireland, and I write comedy and very recently science fiction comedy. So I started writing when I was 40. I know I don't look older than 18 or 20, but you know I'm actually 43, and didn't write a word of anything until I was 40, and then eventually started writing and came up with Making Man, which is a caveman comedy about a Neanderthal inventor, and it's inspired by Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett in their style. Although there isn't much science fiction in this one, it being a caveman comedy, but it's in their style, and that took about a year to write, and I self-published it originally before Three Ravens realized how brilliant it was and decided to pick it up. But that was my first one, so that came out in 2018, and I suppose I picked the caveman subject because I decided that I wanted to write something that wasn't like a common subject matter really, or common premise. So I didn't want to do a vampire romance or some nonsense like that. So I thought, well, a caveman comedy I hadn't seen before, although obviously Arm Animations have done one now. But so that was my first one. My second one is Cheating Death, which is a comedy set during the famously jovial period in medieval European history when the Black Death was doing the rounds. Sales went up during 2020 for some reason. People wanted to read about a plague sweeping through Europe. I'm not sure why, but so that one is that was out the following year. And then my third book, which again was just trying to pick something that hadn't been done before, and to my knowledge hasn't been done, which is a Genghis Khan parody called Killing Chance. And that one, I suppose that the sequence of them really is that Making Man was just kind of my general style of humor with a kind of a bit more storytelling in it than the others. It was less of just being a vehicle for gags. It was more of a story. Cheating Death was written it's not quite written in an old English way, but it's a bit more literary, but with comedy all the way through it. So then Killing Chance is just an utter parody and it's just silly, and it's Monty Python-esque, and everyone has silly names in it, and it's absolute nonsense and will never be used as reference material for Oxbridge. And then the latest one then that's out now is my science fiction comedy, Zoomers. So that's a time travel comedy, definitely inspired by Douglas Adams, and it centers around a planet called Arcadia, and the people who live there realize that life is ending on all planets across the universe, and they develop a technique to time travel and to travel in space and time, so they can go to planets' end days, near to the end day, to find out what's going on in all these planets. Which makes it sound quite serious. It's farcical nonsense, and it's silly, and the characters are caricatures, and they zoom, so they time travel and I suppose space travel doesn't make sense, but they zoom a character or a few characters from England into the planet Arcadia, and one is like a lovable rogue kind of cheeky burglar from Southend, so he's a bit of a cockney, and he gets sent to this planet along with like a stuffy middle-aged Englishman, and they're tasked with basically making sense of the data that the Arcadians had produced. So it's a bit of quantum leap in there, and that they're just trying to get home, and there's a bit of silliness again. But as I say, none of my books are very serious, so there'll be plenty of serious authors on this panel, but I'm not one of them. There isn't a word of seriousness in any of my books. It's all just for the crack. So that's my 4. And then I suppose in what I have done as well is, aside from that, when I've had too much giggling, I do write some short stories, and 2 have been shortlisted for the Pareto Prize for the last 2 years. And they are the other end of the spectrum. So they look at homelessness and dementia and all kinds of not very funny subjects. But I can only do those for a short amount of time, so they're only like 2,000 words long. And then I've had enough, and need to go and write something funny then after that. So, so that's me. That's me.
All right, Gustavo.
Wow, wasn't expecting to be next. Okay, so I'm Gustavo Bondone. I am from Argentina, so the international writers appear to have been blessed to be first. I started kind of very differently from John because I didn't start writing a novel straight away. I started in short stories, and I went progressively selling from very, very tiny magazines. My first sale was to a magazine called Jupiter, which was published in England for some time. And I progressively got into better and better places. And finally, one day I put out a collection of short stories. And I think about 4 people read that one. After that, I started writing novels. And the first novel to be published is a novel called Outside, which was, a novel called Siege. It wasn't the first one to sell, but it was the first one to be published. And the first one to sell, which was actually the second one to be published, is called Outside. These two are both straight science fiction novels. One of them, Siege, takes place very far in the future. It's a war novel. It's basically tells of the war between regular humanity and people who have been uploaded. And Outside is a science fiction novel. It takes place on Earth, but it takes place on Earth 600 years from now, when humans have left the planet, but some have remained behind. The ones who have left are still perfectly normal humans like you and me. The people who remained on Earth are actually all uploaded into a giant simulation. And it's basically a novel about the collision between these two very different societies. So those were my first 2 books. They came out about 5 or 6 years ago. And since then, I've been kind of balancing the short stories with the novel writing. And I've moved out of the science fiction, let's say, uniquely science fiction writer niche into a little bit more. I have some fantasy out there, which has been published in very different places. Some of my fantasy stories are collected in Off the Beaten Path. This is my most recent collection, which was launched in Dublin in 2019 at Worldcon, which holds basically reprinted stories, which are both science fiction and fantasy. And basically they take place outside of the usual settings for science fiction or fantasy stories, outside of the US, North America, or Western Europe. Most of my stories take place in the US or North America, Western Europe, but these are the ones that didn't, and they fit very well with Guardridge Books, which is the publisher, with their idea for what they wanted to see. Other than that, I've written quite a few monster books, also with Severed Press, which are the ones who published Siege. I have 3 monster books. The first one in a series. The first one is Ice Station Death. Second one is Jungle Lab Terror. And the third is Test Site Horror. These are, well, they're extremely fast-paced books. They're action books. They're terror books. These are genetically modified monsters. Some of them look like dinosaurs. Some of them don't. They aren't exactly dinosaurs. And they basically they're being developed far away from civilization in different parts of the world. And essentially, whoever lands in their midst is going to have a bad time of it. Those are my monster books. There's a 4th monster book in this series coming out very soon. As for current projects, the reason I got invited to this con is because I work with Shada. There's a panel about the Shada, which will also be available to watch. And this book is a 3 novella book called Zombie Park, where basically the Shada, which is an apocalypse which takes place every 10,000 years, occurs in the very near future in New York. So basically there's 3 novellas. Each of them takes one moment in the Shada, and it takes place within Central Park in New York. So what am I working on now? I'm working on a few shorts. I have a collection coming out from Three Ravens, which is a sword and sorcery collection, which is probably the most fun I've ever had writing a book, because these are stories that really are about, well, sword and sorcery is always fun. It's always action-packed. It's full of magic, full of places. So I have the monster book coming out, and I have the sequel to Outside, which, if all goes well and the pandemic permits me to travel, we will be launching at Worldcon this year. So that's me, and I hope I didn't go over my 5 minutes.
You're all good, man. All right, let's see. Next victim. Should we just go down the line, or should I randomly pick?
It's up to you.
Catori seems so calm and collected.
Roll the dice.
Roll the dice. I could. I've got my dice bag here somewhere. Yep. Got my dice bag. Jenny Wren, let's go ahead and do you. Oh, look. Yeah, we got you off kilter there. Go for it.
You always have me off kilter. That's kind of the point of the game, isn't it? I'm Jenny Brenniger. I write under Jenny Wren. I kind of epitomize newbie. I have thus far had 2 pieces, 2 flash fictions published in 2 of the Corner Scribblers collections. I've got 2 more on deck for the next one that I imagine have probably been edited and shredded by now. I have to go out and check them. I have just finished the first draft of my first novel. Didn't think I was going to get there, but got it. It is in one of my favorite genres. I tend to gravitate to the science fiction, fantasy, throw some high fantasy in for sprinkles on the cake, stuff like that. If it's going to take you on a fun adventure, I'm going there. It's going to go. So my first one is in a universe that I created, which is part of what took me so long, but we're going to go through it again, see kind of where I can smooth it out before I send it to Three Ravens for dear old William Joseph to shred and tell me it is definitely a first piece for a first time author. I also have kind of in my to-do list, I've been working on some more shorts for more flash fiction submissions, and I've got a project that has kind of been on my personal back shelf for a while. I really do like Kipling's Just So stories. I grew up on those, so I've been putting together a collection over the years of my what if stories. So what if this, or what if that, what if the other. So I've got that kind of growing. It's kind of like my little plant in the greenhouse out back, my green thumb, trying to get it to grow. So right now, that is me as the quintessential newbie, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can learn and seeing how I can grow and be better.
And you were so worried. You did wonderful, and you didn't puke at once.
I know, but you did see me run out before this started, right?
Oh, it's okay. That was before we started. Hey, look, dice.
Yay.
Kyle, your turn.
Oh boy. I'm Kyle Hanna. I'm the vice president of Jumpmaster Press, and my 10th novel is being released next week, actually. It's at the printers right now. So give you a little brief preview of that. It's called No Harbor, and it is a space pirate film, film. That would be great. Yeah. So it's space pirates. I've done a couple of trilogies in the past, and I wanted to do a few standalones. So my last 3 books have actually been standalone: a dystopian future, a fantasy, and now space pirates. And I'm back into multiple books. I've been writing for about 10 years, and it's quite an entertaining process. I am the co-owner of Jumpmaster Press, and we've signed 3 new authors this week, so we're doing pretty well. We've got about 15 or 20 books out, with more coming, and I can honestly say our big catch so far has been Armin Shimmerman. You know him from Quark, from DS9. He is a Shakespearean professor, and he wrote a historical fiction all about the Elizabethan period and everything. And it's one of those things, you know, you go to a con, you just go, hey, how you doing? And you start the conversation. And
Yeah,
you never
it's
know.
weird how those turn out.
You never know what's going to happen after that. But I think what got his attention is, I'm going to have to turn this off. Hold on just a second.
Yeah, that green screen doesn't like you.
No, it doesn't, but that's okay. I don't like it either. So this is called a jump card ID. This is how we do ebooks at conventions. So you don't have to send anybody to Amazon or whatever. It's just got a code on the back. This is actually one of my books. And I was wearing it around my neck on my lanyard. And he said, well, what's that? Let me tell you about it. And it just kind of snowballed from there. But at Jumpmaster Press, we are trying to innovate, especially with conventions kicking back up. So we've got, of course, the jump card ID, but we also have the jump card. And this is how we do audiobooks. It's basically a USB drive with an audiobook on it. And I've talked to William Joseph a couple of times about getting his authors on these products. So I think, are all of these your authors? Are all of y'all signed to Three Ravens?
No, just a few.
Just a few?
But
okay.
Yeah, that's one of those, I need that little extra time to have a moment to sit down and talk with you and figure stuff out, you know?
Well, you've got my number, so.
Oh, I know. I can just give you a call. When LibertyCon is over and I'm not recording like every other day.
Yeah, I got you. But no, you know, that's just one of the things, and I'm going to talk more about Jumpmaster Press than me because, you know, it's the way it is. But we want to cut out Amazon as much as possible. Jeff Bezos has his mansion. We need ours. So with these, you get to keep the money, and he doesn't get a dime. So, you know, talk to William about it. You can check out our website, jumpmasterpress.com, or email me, info@jumpmasterpress.com, if you have any specific questions or anything like that. And for all of you other aspiring authors out there, we are open to submissions for sci-fi, fantasy, murder mystery, children's books, and horror. So, but that's it in a nutshell. Again, if you have any questions, please email us. We love to chat with other authors and publishers to cut out all those people that already have millions of dollars.
I'm going to shoot some dogs here in a minute. All right, new dice roll.
Uh-oh.
Oh, Catori.
Yes. All right. Here we go. So hello, everyone. My name is Catori Sarmiento. I'm an author, artist, and poet. I originally grew up in the Seattle area in the Pacific Northwest. Since I am a military spouse, we soon moved away. While we were stationed in Italy and Japan, I started working on a graduate writing program. I always wrote when I was young and in high school, so I decided, well, let's give it a go. So I went to National University of San Diego and I did their graduate program in writing. After that, I started, looking seriously at doing it a little bit more professionally. So I started getting poetry published, getting some art published. That's when I started working on my first novel, which was The Fortune Follies. Hopefully everyone can see it. My first novel published in 2018. It went on to win an international award, the Chanticleer Award in Science Fiction. It got first place, so that was super exciting. So emboldened by, getting accolades and figuring out like, oh, maybe I can actually do this. I started writing more novels, and then my second novel came out, Carnival Panic, which is a sci-fi thriller. That also went on to win 2 international awards. So I'm still going, and I have a book coming out with Three Ravens Press. It's called Darkness in a Sky of Embers, and it is I would describe it as a sci-fi apocalyptic book. You follow a character. Her name is Madeline, and she joins without giving too much away, she joins the military to fight an alien species. And in fighting them, she discovers more about their existence and its relation to humanity. Some other projects I have finished a very hefty draft of a paranormal murder mystery set in Venice in the 1920s, which relies kind of heavily on Jewish mythology and really explores kind of religion and truth and justice as the character sees it. And I also just got through a very dirty first draft of a romance novel. I've never written romance before, but I thought I'd try it. So about 50,000 words in that one. So that's a little bit of me. I also do a lot of poetry, and that's, gets published periodically too. So that's another one of my very wonderful hobbies. So that's it.
All right, so our next victim, new dice roll. I love this thing. This thing's like heavy copper. Rothman.
All right. Well, I'm Mike Rothman. I write under the moniker of M.A. Rothman. I'm definitely a newbie to LibertyCon, I suppose. But I've got a strong background in the sciences. I've been an engineer and researcher for more years than I can care to count. I have all the degrees. I have 1,000 issued patents worldwide. The typical stuffy science guy. I got into this writing thing more as a way to entertain my kids. I wrote stuff that I knew I was never going to share, but eventually, of course, I did share it with some of my friends who happened to be New York Times bestselling authors, and they talked me into doing some of this writing thing for real. Some of them gave me some good advice, write what I know, and, well, what do I know? I know science. So along the way, I've somehow managed to hit the USA Today a couple times on different novels, and somehow fooled people into believing I can actually write. I guess, speaking of writing, I've written novels spanning, let's see, hard science fiction, all sorts of techno thrillers, and most recently I dabbled in lit RPG. I suppose if I'm known for anything, it's for the science that people find in my stories, regardless of the genre. I tend to sprinkle science into everything I write. Not unlike some people, when they sprinkle salt in their food, I sprinkle science into my writing. So everything goes a little bit better with science. But I figured if MacGyver can build an entire franchise on his being able to jerry-rig things, I can probably do the same thing with inserting science into things. And since I wasn't planning on shilling anything, but since I had an ARC sitting on my desk, and that's actually the latest and greatest. I can't actually tell if this is being displayed correctly, but the Planeswalker.
We can see it. Got a little glare, but it's not bad.
The Planeswalker, my most recent novel, but lots more stuff coming out. That's pretty much it. Short and sweet.
All right, new re-roll. Here we go. Let's see who's going to win the last one. 2. Mark.
So my name's Mark Stallings. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I write science fiction and fantasy. So Michael, I have a quick question for you though, because I follow you on Facebook and your posts are hilarious. Do you sprinkle that into your writing?
A lot of people ask me about that. I probably should. And I probably should. I don't intentionally, but I probably should insert more of it. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you entertain my family, so thank you for that.
Yeah, my dad jokes are a little infamous.
Mine too. I like to take all of yours and stuff them in my database.
There you go.
So I started writing in 2016. I had dabbled in it, just taking creative writing classes in college. I have tech degrees also, but I needed something that would get me out of the tech focus from that perspective. I mean, dealing with customers, and I do call center software consulting, so that's my day job. And I'm hoping that the writing stuff will pan out so that I can remove myself from day job. But in 2016, I went to a local group, Pikes Peak Writers, mostly to support my buddy who wanted to be an avid writer. And I'd always been an avid reader. And so I went with him and we sat through panels and I was like, wow, I can do this. And so I went and tried to write a thriller, and try implies failure. And in this instance, yeah, it was a train wreck. It was a complete dumpster fire. I like trashed it, rewrote it, trashed it. And then I was like, I really need to figure out how to write stories. So I got involved with a local author, Kevin Eikenberry, who does a story structure class. And because of that, I was able to do what you see on the sides here. So I started off, I've always been an avid martial artist, and been to Japan, China, speak Japanese. And so I decided, after talking with my publisher at Shadow Alley Press, he's like, hey, you should really focus on trying wuxia. And so that's what the birth of the Silver Coin saga is here with the elements, and doing Harvest Moon. And then right now I'm working on animals. But it's basically Asian fantasy. It is magic-powered martial arts. So if you guys have seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that kind of stuff. When I grew up on, Shaolin theater on Sundays, watching kung fu movies, or wire fu, if you want to call it that, where it's like this barely understood mystic powers and they can do superhuman feats. Yeah. So that's what Silver Coin Saga is all about. At cons, and through Kevin Eikenberry, I got to meet Chris Kennedy of Chris Kennedy Publishing, and I was offered an opportunity to participate in a anthology for the Peacemakers in the Four Horsemen universe. And so it's a expanded world. I think there's 63 books in it right now, and fortunately, I was able to participate in that, and because of that. That got me to a collaboration with Matt Novotny doing science fiction. And, when you talk about writing styles, I am a hardcore plotter. I'm a software guy. I like design. I like to understand what's going on. And so I paired up with Matt, who is a hardcore pantser. And so it was an interesting thing to go through ideation and combining I want to write it all down with his, what do you think about this? And I think we came up with a fantastic story. I mean, truly a story better than either of us could have written individually. I mean, so I'm a big fan of that collaborative effort.
That almost sounds like it would have been complete chaos to do.
From a plotter perspective, at 12:05 a.m. when I get what do you think of this? I'm like, oh, let's just finish the story, and if we need to add more, it's like, no. But sometimes when you're kind of stuck and you're like, wow, this scene seems kind of flat, and then I want some, what do you think of this? I mean, so that was really helpful when you're like, feeling that something's not moving along
right
quickly, or you just can't get the right feel for a scene. And Matt was fantastic with that. And so, yeah. and collaboratively, we wrote a scene towards the end of the book. I'm not spoiling it. But every time I read it, I tear up. I mean, it was just so emotionally powerful, and the only way we could have done it was together. I mean, I like more towards the humorous side of things, and so in this one particular evocative moment, we really wanted to try to pull people's heartstrings and have this kind of redemption moment.
Okay.
So because of the relationship with Chris Kennedy, I'm talking about upcoming projects. Matt and I are going to do a collaboration for book 2, for what's happening within that main Four Horsemen. But under Chris Kennedy Publishing, there are multiple shared universes. And so, like at the end of the month, I owe a salvage title short story to get jumped into that universe, which is where I met him. I'm pointing at, William Joseph Robertson here with his Smuggler's Run. I'm also keenly interested. Have you heard back from Guinness?
Oh, yeah, it got turned down. I just got the reply back like 3 days ago.
Right,
wasn't tangent. They couldn't tangibly measure it well enough, so they turned it down.
I'm sorry. But he wrote a book in the Savage Title universe from Kevin Steverson's Shared World. And then I have a short due for This Fallen World, Christopher Wood's shared universe. And then a hit world short for Bill Webb's shared world universe. All the while working on a super secret project of high fantasy through Chris Kennedy Publishing that we are going to announce officially at DragonCon. And then that's going to be a wild ride for everybody, I promise.
Oh, so they're going to kick off a big series then. All right, cool. So last but not least, Jenny, are you going to blink? You haven't blinked in a while.
Well, she did say
I'm
she
going to
had
roast a dog
contact.
here in a minute.
That's because I've been wearing my contacts. I don't
Oh,
try to wear my contacts.
Okay. Well, go ahead and tell us about yourself then.
Okay, I am JF Posthumus. I write urban fantasy. I've also written some medieval fantasy and a couple sci-fi. Sci-fi have been short. I do have a sci-fi romance in the pipeline. Still working with the publisher on that, so not sure when that will come out. The first two novels that I have out are The Fae's Amulet and Death's Talisman, which are Lady of Death novels. They're set in Stanton, Virginia, and Waynesboro, Virginia, that area. It's about a necromancer who's basically been hiding from herself for about 100 years, and then gets hired to find a missing amulet which can summon any deity. She has to locate that before it can be used, and hell comes to earth. And of course, she's not the only one looking for it. So the sequel is where she has to locate an item she used during her heyday as the Lady of Death, when she pretty much ruled an area over in Europe, and it was right before the witch hunts. So she kind of was getting too powerful, too known, and the High Council stepped in and said, you have, I think it was a year to end her reign, or they're going to come after her. So from that time, she had a talisman which could turn any weapon into a super weapon. She broke it up into 3 pieces, had an associate, an ally, hide them, and someone has found 2 of the 3 pieces and is using it to try to kill her. So she has to find the pieces, find the person before they can manage to kill her and keep anyone else from using it. I'm working on the 3rd novel in that series. Hopefully I'll have it finished by the end of the year, but I have 4 kids. 2 are under, well, one will be 7. The other will be 5, and both are autistic. So you can imagine the chaos they cause.
Are you counting Mark in those counts?
No, he
You need to
actually
add an extra one on there.
Nah, he helps wrangle the kids. But I also have a husband and 2 older kids. But one's a teen daughter who's being very much a teen daughter, and the other's 18 who finally got his learners. Yeah. So typical boy. And he's hoping to get a job this summer, so we'll see how that goes. But I've also written multiple short stories for various anthologies. One's a sci-fi, which can be found in, I have a copy, Saturn. And then I have another series of shorts that show up in 2 anthologies that are currently out, and there's another one, no, 3 anthologies that are currently out. And that's about a high school world history teacher who's very much a mundane. He can't do magic. And he got hired to substitute at a school for magically gifted children. So those shorts are all about his encounters and escapades there at that school. I also have a high fantasy, medieval fantasy world that I'm taking submissions for an anthology. It's a universe that is based on a world my husband played D&D in when he was a kid. So he gave permission. We worked together to create the maps, the universe, all of that. Some of the characters that show up in the Lady of Death series pop up, are from that world. So you can find out more about that on threeravenspublishing.com. And you can find me on Amazon under JF Posthumus and on Three Ravens Publishing. And
Okay.
I also am on Facebook under author JF Posthumus.
And going back around the table, tell us where we can find your stuff, how to get in contact with you, and where we can stalk you at. Going back to Cal first.
Who, me? I wasn't first last time. No. Everything, you can find us at jumpmasterpress.com. If you have general queries, it's info@jumpmasterpress.com. I know it's going to sound rough. I'm Kyle at jumpmasterpress.com. So I'm also on Facebook. So yeah, please feel free stalk. I love stalkers, but be warned, sometimes I stalk back.
All right, Michael.
MichaelARothman.com is probably easiest way to get to all my links. That's my website, and join the mailing list, and you'll get occasional annoying emails from me with almost guaranteed to have a dad joke included, free of charge.
Jenny.
Which one?
You.
Oh,
The other Jenny already told us where we can find her stuff.
hey, you can find me on Amazon as Jenny Wren. I think I also ended up on Goodreads, also as Jenny Wren. You can also find me on Facebook, except there I'm Jenny Renegar, Renegar. Not a lot of stalkers picked up there so far, so who knows what's going to happen now. But as of right now, those are the corners I'm hiding in.
Mark.
You can find me at markstallings.com. Website's up top. I'm also on Facebook, Mark Stallings Author. I'm on Patreon, Mark Stallings as a creator. And join my mailing list. And I will also send you email occasionally. No dad jokes. Maybe.
Catori.
Yes, you can find me at www.catorisarmiento.com. I'm also on Facebook. Just look up my name on Facebook, Catori Sarmiento. I'm on Goodreads as well. Or if you just type me into Google, you'll find me.
And Gustavo.
So I'm on GustavoBondoni.com. I'm also on Facebook, and I welcome stalkers. I'm on Twitter as well, which nobody's mentioned, at @gbondoni. And I welcome stalkers there too. And you can look at my Amazon page, just type in Gustavo Bondone and it'll come up.
All right. And again, I am your host and moderator, William Joseph Roberts. You can find me at williamjosephroberts.com or look over at threeravenspublishing.com, plus pretty much any social media platform, because I'm on all of them. And that will be it for tonight. Thank you, LibertyCon, and all y'all watching. Have a good evening.
Thank you.